This open Dolphins 2, so I'm guessing we're down to 1.5 right now, total around 51. What do you see happening here with the number, especially if Tyreek Hill gets announced in? Maybe Miami gets a little healthier on the offensive line and in the secondary.
Right, exactly. And that's exactly what the odds maker said. It's like you read my stuff, Ryan. I appreciate that. So he said just look for the health of not just Hill, but also, again, the offensive line and the secondary. The Dolphins banged up on both sides of the ball a little bit. But he said if the Dolphins get healthy, he thinks this is going to move toward 3. I think the public will probably maybe shade Miami if Tyreek Hill is playing because he's such a difference maker. But and especially because of the recency bias, Dallas just got smoked. And now they have to go on the road again against a good football team that hopefully isn't taking anything for granted after the Week 14 loss to Tennessee. It should be a really good game. I agree with you. Second best game of the week. I can see the public on both sides of this. It'll be really interesting.
Is there any dead cat bounce money coming in sharp?
Oh, I think so because the odds maker I go back and forth with on Sunday nights had this at 14. And if I'm seeing right, I'm not looking everywhere. I don't know what you have there at National Harbor. Yeah, 11.5. So clearly there's a couple of things going on here. And I think you saw it a little bit with the Panthers too, although in the Panthers case, it didn't work out until just this past weekend when they finally won another game. But, maybe they're thinking there's a bounce back, the fired coach theory and the team gets its act together. The Raiders did that for a couple of weeks there when they made their move with McDaniels. So, it could be a little of that. It's also a pretty big number. The Bills, Trista, coming off a rout, but an emotional big win that they had to have after an emotional win in Kansas City. Now they got to go all the way across the country. I think there's a few trains of thought pulling into the station on this game where maybe that was a few too many points. I would guess the sharp set probably helped bring that number down for the most part. I don't know that it'll go much more though. I think the Bills look like the Bills. I mean, that's a good team.
The Bills' offense certainly looks different now, not having, when Ken Dorsey got fired, you felt like things started to change a little bit. I mean, my God, Cook looks incredible in this offense right now. But what's your confidence level in the Bills? They're 11.5-point favorites at the Chargers this weekend.
I might tack on a 0. It could be 110.5, and I would still take Buffalo. I mean, for the love of God, the Chargers are a supreme mess, evidenced by the house cleaning that we saw last week after giving up a historic 60-burger to the Las Vegas Raiders. And I'm glad this game is on Christmas Eve and it's a night game because I don't have to watch it. Honestly, I don't. I can actually talk to my family. I get milk and cookies out for Santa, and I can go to bed early because this sucker's going to be over by, the end of the first quarter, maybe over the first 5 minutes. It could be like Las Vegas performed against the Chargers where it's like fumble, mistake, touchdown, and like 3 consecutive drives. But the Bills have seen to right the ship. Defensively, they really impressed me yesterday, locking down and grounding one of the best offensive attacks there in the NFL. Really discombobulated Dallas. They were confused. They were bewildered. They were befuddled. And then to look at Buffalo offensively, we know they've always had the goods, but the unlocking and emergence of James Cook. That was a guy I also faced in my fantasy, matchup tonight. And why I'm down, a handful of points is because I got cooked. He was absolutely amazing in that game. Should have been really a focal point of this offensive scheme weeks ago. But now, again, with the temperature dropping there in Western New York, more ground-heavy approaches in northerly latitudes are becoming omnipresent. And James Cook right now at the forefront of that in Buffalo and right on time as well. This team firing once again on all cylinders.
It is a Monday. Scott would like to change our mind here at National Harbor.
If we can take care of one real quick. Trista, start with you. Christian McCaffrey, the true MVP. He's plus 1,800 right now to win the MVP. But he'll win the OPOY, Offensive Player of the Year, CMC, at minus 155 for that. Now that we've seen Tua play well without Tyreek, proving he's not as valuable to Miami as CMC is to San Francisco. CMC, the true MVP. Change my mind.
I mean, in our minds, in our hearts, in our souls, he's the true MVP. But what we are seeing is the same thing that we've been saying all year, which is they're not going to give it to anyone but a quarterback. That's just what it is. And especially considering that Brock Purdy has played so well and all it takes is everyone to be there for us to see how good he can be. So when you're the favorite at minus 200, your running back can't end up being the MVP no matter what the odds are. There is no number that I would take Christian McCaffrey for. I already know what the voters are going to do. They love the Mr. Irrelevant story. So as much as he's a true MVP in my mind, he's not the true MVP in terms of betting.
And it is a great story, and you guys know how much I love Brock Purdy. I think most people like these kind of stories, but it's got to the point now where you're wasting your money if you put anything on a non-quarterback to win MVP, which is kind of why Offensive Player of the Year has become the wide receiver or running back award, where it's like you're also recognizing the great season that a Christian McCaffrey or a Tyreek Hill is having, but you're not giving them the real true award, which would be MVP, which also, think about this, it's crazy. If Christian McCaffrey wins Offensive Player of the Year, Tyreek Hill could have a record-breaking season this year in terms of receiving yards, even if he falls short of 2,000, missing a little bit of time. And it could be Christian McCaffrey winning that, Brock Purdy winning MVP, let's say, and then Tyreek Hill in the season he's having gets shut out and gets nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, so, like, for me, most valuable player, like the player that's most valuable to their team, and, like, Jimmy Garoppolo, before he went down last year, had the Niners in pretty good position. Nobody even knew who Brock Purdy was. I'm not saying Brock Purdy's not a better option than Jimmy Garoppolo. He certainly is. And then even like last year, Christian McCaffrey was just a luxury for the Niners. They were fine without him. They had one of the best run games. Both guys are awesome. I think McCaffrey should be the favorite for OPOY, definitely over Tyreek because of his skill set. He could catch 80 to 90 balls out of the backfield in the slot. You could line him up wherever on the field. He could also rush for 1,200 yards. He scores 2 touchdowns every single week, so I definitely think he's the best offensive player in the league. But MVP, I think, is Lamar Jackson. I mean, every year Baltimore's the number 1 seed, at least number 1 seed in their division, and he gets hurt. And sure, they could win games with Snoop Huntley or Anthony Brown, but they can't win playoff games. And Lamar, first it was he was never going to win an MVP. He did that. He was never going to beat Pat Mahomes. He did that. He was never going to win a playoff game. He did that. So hopefully this year he could get to a Super Bowl. And I'd like to see him win another MVP. The numbers aren't great, but look what he does with his legs. Also, it took some time. I mean, it's a new offensive system with Todd Monken taking over for Greg Roman. You had OBJ coming off another devastating injury. He didn't play football last year. Now he's finally healthy. You lose Mark Andrews, so
you lose J.K. Dobbins
Lamar
at the beginning of the season too.
But McCaffrey should be Offensive Player of the Year for sure, even over Tyreek.
The amazing thing too is that somebody like Christian McCaffrey, for all this, like running backs get run into the ground and their careers don't last as long. McCaffrey's going to prolong his career with the way that he plays.
Pretty healthy for a running back right now in San Francisco.
And they can pull him back maybe off of the carries as the years go by. Let's say the next year or two even, and line him up more as a slot receiver or just as a receiving threat out of the backfield if they don't want him to take so much of that wear and tear, and you prolong that career even. I mean, it's a great spot to be in. We talk about big men in the NBA having to learn how to stretch the floor and shoot from the outside. If I'm a young running back coming up in this league, I'm learning how to make sure that I can catch the football out of the backfield and do what Christian McCaffrey can do.